Kemi had exactly 12 minutes left before the interview that could change her daughter's life. She had waited 4 long months for this single chance.
Then she saw the old man hit the ground. His walking stick rolled beneath a parked car. People gathered. Somebody shouted for water. Another person lifted a phone to record, but nobody touched him. Kemi looked at the time on her screen. 8 minutes. She had waited 4 months for this interview. Rent was due. Her temporary job could end any week. And that morning, 9-year-old Zara had hugged her and whispered, "Mummy, you will get it." The old man tried to stand, his knees folded again. 5 minutes. Kemi closed her eyes once. Then she stepped away from the road she had planned for herself and ran towards him. She did not know his name was Musa Bello. She certainly did not know his son was one of Nigeria's richest businessmen. And before that day ended, Kemi would lose the interview. But that loss would drag her into a battle far bigger than any job application. So don't leave this story halfway. And before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching from and your local time right now. Subscribe too, because what happened when Musa's billionaire son finally came looking for Kemi was only the beginning. Kemi Adebayo had not bought new clothes for herself in almost a year. That morning, she wore the one blouse she had saved for occasions that mattered. Burnt orange, long sleeves, neatly pressed the night before, while Zara sat at the table doing mathematics homework and complaining that fractions were created by wicked people. Her trousers were dark navy. Her black flats had been polished with the last bit of shoe cream in a cracked tin she had kept since her old logistics job. Nothing about her outfit was expensive, but everything about it was deliberate. She wanted to walk into Apex Route Services looking like a woman whose life was under control, even if it was not. At 6:30 that morning, the electricity had gone off just as she was heating water. At 6:40, Zara could not find one sock. At 7:10, the neighbor who normally helped with the school run sent a message saying her own child was ill. Kemi adjusted. She always adjusted. That had become her private talent since Zara's father left 3 years earlier and slowly reduced his contribution from irregular to almost nothing. Kemi had stopped fighting him over promises he never kept. She kept records, yes. She sent messages when school fees were due. She asked when necessary. But she no longer planned her daughter's life around a man who specialized in saying, "Next week." The Apex Route interview was different. It was not glamorous. There would be no corner office, no company driver, no shiny title to impress relatives at Christmas. The role was Operations Scheduling Officer. The salary would cover rent, food, transport, and Zara's school expenses without Kemi calculating every evening whether one more plate of rice today meant no money for data tomorrow. More important, the hours were predictable. Predictable had become beautiful. Her current temporary administrative work paid by the day. Some weeks she got 4 shifts. Some weeks 2. There was no health plan, no certainty. No promise that the desk she used on Monday would still belong to her on Friday. So when the email from Apex Route arrived, inviting her to interview after months of applications, Kemi printed it twice. One copy went in her bag. The other stayed under the glass on her bedside table. Not because she believed paper carried luck, because she needed to see proof that somebody had finally read her CV and said, "Come." That morning, Zara stood by the door in a pale yellow school dress, her braids tied into 2 neat bunches. "Mummy, yes, you are checking that folder again. I am checking that I have everything. You checked it last night." Kemi looked at her daughter. Zara folded her arms with the seriousness of a retired headmistress. "You checked it this morning too." "Madam, please wear your shoes." Zara grinned. Then, when Kemi bent to fix the strap on her school bag, the girl wrapped both arms around her neck. "You will get it." Kemi smiled into Zara's hair. "I will do my best. No, you will get it." Children had no respect for uncertainty. Kemi almost envied them. She dropped Zara at school, checked the time, and allowed herself a small breath of relief. If traffic behaved, she would arrive 25 minutes early. In Lagos, that was not optimism, that was strategy. She boarded a bus for the first part of the journey, transferred near a busy commercial stretch, then decided to take a ride-hailing car for the final leg, because the bus ahead was already crawling. She watched the blue route line on her phone. 23 minutes to destination. Then 19, then 16. Good. She opened her notes and read the points she had prepared. How do you handle route disruptions? How do you prioritize competing operational needs? Tell us about a time you resolved a scheduling failure. That last question she could answer in her sleep. At her previous company, a supplier delay had once threatened 3 retail deliveries. Her manager wanted to wait until the missing stock arrived. Kemi had split the available inventory, rerouted 2 vans, called the clients before they called them, and reduced the missed orders from 3 to 1. She had not saved the country. She had done her job. That was what she wanted again. A job where competence mattered. The car slowed. Traffic thickened around an intersection where roadside activity pressed against the road. Kiosks, parked vehicles, impatient motorcycles, pedestrians trying to squeeze through spaces that were never meant to be pedestrian paths. Kemi checked the time, 12 minutes. The office was less than 10 minutes away if the traffic released. Then a horn blasted. A dark saloon car swerved too close to the roadside. An elderly man stepped back sharply. His walking stick slipped. His right foot twisted beneath him. He went down hard. For one strange second, everybody looked. Nobody moved. Then noise arrived all at once. "Ah, Daddy, careful. Somebody bring water. Don't touch him." A young man held up his phone, filming from 3 meters away. Kemi stared through the window. The driver moved forward half a car length. She looked at her phone. 8 minutes. The old man tried to push himself upright. His face tightened. His knees folded. He dropped back against the dusty concrete edge. "Madam, are you stopping?" the driver asked. Kemi's fingers tightened around her folder. "Just wait." She watched 2 men argue about whether the old man should be lifted. Nobody actually went near him. One woman was calling for somebody to call an ambulance. But she did not seem to know the number or the nearest facility. Kemi looked at the clock again. 6 minutes. She thought of the interview room. Cold air conditioning. 3 people at a table. Her CV in front of them. She thought of Zara saying, "You will get it." Then the old man lifted one hand and said something nobody seemed to hear. Kemi opened the car door. "Madam? Please park properly." She stepped out. The driver made a frustrated sound. Kemi ignored him. She pushed through the small crowd. "Sir, can you hear me?" The old man's eyes found hers. "Yes." His voice was low but clear. "Did you hit your head?" "I don't think so. Don't stand yet. I am not a child." "Good. Then don't behave like one." The old man stared at her. Then, despite the pain in his face, one corner of his mouth moved. Sharp tongue, useful tongue. A woman beside them laughed nervously. Kemi crouched, careful not to move him unnecessarily. "Sir, where does it hurt?" "My ankle and my pride. Pride can wait." She looked around. "Is there a clinic nearby?" A man pointed down the road. "There is one after the bank. Small private place. Can we get a vehicle close?" The ride-hailing driver had finally pulled over properly. Kemi waved him forward. He leaned across the passenger's seat. "Madam, I cannot enter clinic matter. I have another trip." "I will pay you for the wait." He frowned. She knew she should not have said it. Money she had budgeted for transport home was already thin. Still, she said, "Please." Another man helped support Musa carefully under Kemi's direction. They did not drag him. They did not force the ankle. The old man hissed as they moved him. Kemi saw sweat gather at his temple. "Easy," she said. "I am trying." They got him into the back seat. Kemi looked at her phone. 5 minutes. The interview was now impossible. Not difficult, impossible. She could still leave. She could tell the driver to take Musa to the clinic and jump on a bike. She could arrive late and pray somebody listened. Then Musa searched the pocket of his cream kaftan and frowned. "My phone." Maybe it fell. A boy from the crowd came running with a cracked smartphone. "Sir, this one?" The screen was shattered black. Musa pressed the side button. "Nothing." He sighed. "There is a number I need to call." Kemi unlocked her phone and held it out. "Use mine." He looked at her. "You are going somewhere important." The words landed harder than she expected. "Yes, sir. And you are still here. Please make your call." He did. The number rang twice. A man's voice answered immediately.
Daddy?
Musa gave his name, then explained what had happened in 3 short sentences. The voice on the other end changed. Where are you? Musa looked at Kemi. She gave the clinic name from the signboard ahead. The man repeated it. I am coming. Musa ended the call and handed back the phone. My son. Kemi nodded. The clinic was close. The driver stopped at the entrance. Kemi paid him for the ride and the delay. He drove away without another word. Inside, 2 staff members came with a wheelchair. Kemi stepped back. Now trained people were taking over. Good. This was where her responsibility ended. She checked her phone. The interview time had passed 14 minutes earlier. There were 3 missed calls from an unknown office number. Her stomach dropped. Musa noticed. Your appointment. Interview. He closed his eyes briefly. I am sorry. Kemi shook her head. You didn't ask to fall. What company? Apex Route Services. Call them. I will. She tried while standing outside the clinic. No answer. She tried again. Nothing. Musa called her back with his voice. You should go. Your son is coming? Yes. Staff has your details? Yes. Good. She reached for her bag. Musa caught her wrist lightly. Your name? Kemi. Kemi what? Adebayo. He nodded as though storing it somewhere precise. Musa Bello. Take care, Mr. Bello. You too, sharp tongue. Kemi almost smiled. Then she ran. By the time she reached Apex Route, the reception area was quiet. Too quiet. The chairs where candidates had waited were empty. A tray of bottled water stood untouched on a side table. Someone had removed the temporary sign that said interview check-in and leaned it against the wall. Kemi knew before she spoke. Still, she walked to the desk. Good afternoon. My name is Kemi Adebayo. I had an interview for the operations scheduling officer role. The receptionist checked the screen. 10:30? Yes, it finished. I know. There was an emergency on the road. I tried calling. The receptionist's face softened. One moment. She disappeared through a door. Kemi stood very still. She could feel dampness between her shoulder blades. Her burnt orange blouse, which had looked so controlled at 7 that morning, was now creased at the waist and dusty near one cuff. A woman came out carrying a slim folder. Kemi? Yes, I'm Faith Daniels. I was on the interview panel. Kemi straightened. Thank you for coming out. I know I'm late. An elderly man fell near the road and Faith raised one hand, not rudely. The receptionist told me. Kemi waited. Faith looked genuinely regretful. We had 6 candidates scheduled. We completed the panel window at noon. I understand. If I can wait, even if it is another hour, I can't reconvene the panel. 2 members have already left for another meeting. Tomorrow? Faith shook her head. We have final scoring this afternoon. Kemi swallowed. I sent an email from the clinic. I saw it. There was no cruelty in Faith's voice. That somehow made it worse. Kemi had prepared herself for somebody impatient, somebody dismissive, somebody she could quietly resent. Instead, she got a woman following a process. Is there any reschedule policy for emergency cases? Kemi asked. Faith hesitated. Not for this recruitment round. So that's it? I am sorry. Kemi looked at the empty chairs. The interview had happened 20 meters away from where she stood. Life had continued without her. Faith added, You can apply again if another role opens. Kemi almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because people said things like that when they had no idea what another 3 months without stable income could mean. But Faith was not the enemy. Kemi knew that, so she only said, Thank you for your time. She turned to leave. Kemi. She looked back. Faith's expression had changed slightly. For what it is worth, I'm glad you stopped for the man. Kemi nodded once. Then she walked outside. The heat hit her face. She stood near the gate with her folder pressed against her chest. For the first time all day, she allowed herself to be angry. Not at Musa, not at Faith, not even at Lagos traffic. At the arithmetic of being poor enough that one good decision could cost too much. She had done the humane thing. That did not make rent disappear. It did not make school fees patient. It did not create another interview. Her phone rang, unknown number. For 1 second, she thought Apex Route had changed their mind. She answered too quickly. Hello? A man's voice said, Good afternoon. Is this Kemi Adebayo? Yes, my name is Yusuf Bello. You gave my father your phone this morning. Kemi closed her eyes. Of course, not Apex route. Life had a sense of humor after all. Is he okay? She asked. He's being checked. He injured his ankle, but he is stable. Relief moved through her before disappointment could stop it. Good. There was a brief pause. He told me you missed something important because you stayed with him. Kemi looked back through the glass doors of Apex route. They finished the interview. I am sorry. Your father did not cause it. No, but I would like to thank you properly. You just did. Kemi. Mr. Bello, I am glad your father is safe. Truly, but I need to pick up my daughter. Another pause. This one felt different, as if the man on the phone was not used to conversations ending before he was finished. Then he said, Fair enough. May I call you tomorrow? Kemi looked at the time. If it is about your father, yes. And if it is to say thank you, you have said it. The man gave a short laugh. All right. She ended the call. On the bus home, Kemi sat by the window with the folder on her lap. One corner had bent inside her bag. She tried to press it flat with her thumb. It would not stay. At Zara's school, her daughter came running out with one shoelace loose. Mummy! Kemi smiled automatically. How was school? Fine. Did you get the job? There it was. Kemi had rehearsed answers on the bus. They all sounded false now. She took Zara's hand. I didn't get the interview. Zara frowned. How can you not get an interview when you already had an interview? I missed it. Why? Kemi told her. Not every detail enough. Zara listened with the solemn concentration children, gave stories involving adults making decisions they found inefficient. So the old man is okay? Yes. And you don't have the job? No. Zara thought about this, then she said, That is not fair. Kemi squeezed her hand. No, it isn't. Do you wish you left him there? Kemi stopped walking. The question went straight through her. She looked at her daughter. No, not even after the empty chairs. Not even after the polite rejection. Not even with rent waiting. No, she said again. I don't. Zara nodded, okay, and they kept walking. The next morning, Yusuf Bello found his father arguing with a nurse about whether 73 was old. It is not young, the nurse said. That is not the same thing. You still have to keep the ankle elevated. I can elevate it at home. Yusuf stood at the door for a moment and watched them. Musa saw him first. Tell this woman I am not dying. The nurse did not turn around. Tell your father I did not say he was dying. Yusuf put both hands in his pockets. I think I should stay out of this one. Musa clicked his tongue. Coward. The nurse smiled and left the room with the victorious calm of somebody who knew the patient would obey eventually. Yusuf walked in. His father wore a loose cream kaftan. His ankle was supported and wrapped. A maroon cap sat on the bedside table beside a paper cup of tea he had not finished. How is the pain? Yusuf asked. Manageable. What did the doctor say? You heard him yesterday. I am asking what you heard. Musa gave him a look. This is why I did not want you to come with me to every appointment after your mother died. You listen like an investigator. Yusuf pulled a chair closer, and you answer like a politician. Musa laughed once, then winced when the movement shifted his leg. Yusuf's face changed immediately. Easy. I am fine. Daddy, I am fine. The words were sharper the second time. Yusuf let the silence settle. This was the argument beneath most of their arguments now. Yusuf worried. Musa resisted being managed. After his wife died 4 years earlier, Musa had refused to move into Yusuf's house. He still went to church alone, visited old colleagues, attended meetings nobody had invited Yusuf to, and considered the presence of a driver an insult if he had not personally requested one. His independence had always been part pride, part discipline. Age had not softened either part. Yusuf looked at the bandaged ankle. Why were you walking there alone? I was not alone. There were 300 Nigerians around me. You know what I mean. I went to see Adebayo. You knew. She told me before she left. Musa looked toward the window. For once he had no joke. Yusuf understood the expression. His father did not like owing people. More precisely, he did not like feeling that somebody had carried a cost for him without his consent. Find out what she lost, Musa said. I already know what she lost. Then replace it. Yusuf leaned back. How? Offer her a job. At Coralink? Why not? Because she helped you after you fell. Musa frowned. That is the reason. That is exactly the problem. What problem? Daddy, if I hire a woman because she helped you, I turn what she did into a transaction. Musa stared at him. She needs work, maybe, but she may not need my charity. Musa repeated, offended by the word. I did not say she is a charity case. I said that is what it will look like if I hand her a position she did not compete for. Musa's jaw moved. Yusuf continued, and if she enters the company that way, every time she does well, people will say it is because of me. Every mistake, they will say, we protected her. She may spend 2 years proving she belongs in a room she was never allowed to enter fairly. Musa looked away. He was quiet long enough for Yusuf to know the point had landed. Then Musa said, You talk too much these days. That means you agree. It means you talk too much. Yusuf smiled. His father tapped one finger against the paper cup. Still, find her. I have her number. No. Find out who she is. Yusuf's expression hardened slightly. You want me to investigate her? No. I want you to speak to her like a person. You people with money think everything requires a file. Yusuf laughed. Fair. Musa settled back against the pillow. And repay her transport. That I can do. Add something. No. Yusuf. No, you are stubborn. I learnt from a specialist. That afternoon, Kemi was at a temporary office in Yaba, sorting supplier invoices that had already been sorted badly by somebody else. The company rented printers and office equipment. Her job for that week was to match delivery notes to invoices and separate the ones with missing signatures. It was not difficult work. That did not mean it was careless work. Kemi had discovered long ago that temporary staff were often given tasks permanent employees considered too small to respect. She respected them anyway. At 1:30, the receptionist appeared beside her desk. Kemi, somebody is asking for you. Who? Yusuf Bello. Kemi's hand stopped over a stack of papers. The receptionist lowered her voice. Is it the Yusuf Bello? Kemi looked at her. What Yusuf Bello? The receptionist stared. Coralink, Bello Holdings, that one. Kemi knew Coralink, of course. Everybody who worked around distribution and consumer logistics knew the name. Trucks carrying its blue and white logo moved across major routes. The company had grown from regional haulage into warehousing, distribution, and fulfillment partnerships. Yusuf appeared in business news often enough that Kemi recognized the name once the receptionist said it. She had not recognized the voice on the phone. She certainly had not connected Musa Bello to him. Her first reaction was not excitement. It was irritation. Why was he here? She stood, where is he? Reception, Kemi walked out. Yusuf Bello was easy to identify even if one had never seen him before. Not because he had security men surrounding him. He did not. Not because he was dressed like a man trying to display wealth. He was not. He wore a bright cobalt blue jacket over a white shirt, dark trousers, no tie. His watch looked expensive to Kemi only because it looked too simple to be cheap. Mostly, he looked like a man used to people arranging themselves around him. The receptionist had already arranged herself. Her posture had changed completely. Kemi walked over. Mr. Bello? He stood. Kemi Adebayo. Yes, thank you for seeing me. I did not know you were coming. That is fair criticism. She had expected defensiveness. The quick admission took some wind out of her irritation. He held a small envelope. My father asked me to return what you spent on transport yesterday. Kemi looked at it. How does he know what I spent? He estimated. I told him estimating other people's money is dangerous. So I asked you by message this morning. And you gave me the amount. Kemi remembered the message. She had assumed he was asking out of politeness. Yusuf held out the envelope. It is exactly that amount. She took it. No extra? No extra. Your father wanted extra. He did, and you stopped him. I did. Kemi glanced at the envelope again. Thank you. He also wanted me to offer you a job. Kemi looked up immediately. Yusuf raised a hand. I did not. Good. He laughed, surprised. You really do not waste time. I need work. I don't need to spend the next 5 years explaining that I got it because an old man fell down. Yusuf's smile faded into something more thoughtful. That was my argument. Then we agree. I think so. He nodded toward the temporary badge clipped to her blouse. What kind of work do you do? This week? Invoice reconciliation. I mean, normally. Operations, dispatch coordination, scheduling, supplier follow-up, some inventory work. What happened to your last permanent role? Kemi paused. The question was personal, but not invasive. Restructuring. The company lost 2 major clients. My unit was reduced. How long ago? 8 months. And the interview yesterday? Operation scheduling. Yusuf looked at her for a second. Coralink has an open operations recovery coordinator role. Kemi's face changed before she could stop it. He noticed. I am not offering you the job. You had better not. I am offering you the vacancy notice. That is on your website. It is. Then I can find it myself. You can. He reached into the slim folder he carried and placed 1 page on the reception table. The deadline is tomorrow evening. Kemi did not touch it. What exactly are you doing, Mr. Bello? Trying not to insult you while still acknowledging that helping my father cost you something. That sounds complicated. It is becoming more complicated by the minute. Kemi almost smiled, he continued. The role is genuinely open. HR is handling it. I will not instruct anyone to select you. If you do not meet the requirements, you will not pass screening. If you pass, you will compete. And everybody will know who referred me. Not necessarily. Kemi looked at him sharply. I am not hiding anything. Neither am I. HR can record the referral. But I don't need to be on the panel. You are the owner. One of them. You are still the founder, yes. So if you breathe near my application, people will feel pressure. Yusuf looked amused again, but only for a second. You have thought about this. I have been unemployed long enough to think about everything. He nodded slowly. Then apply through the public portal. Do not send me your CV. Do not copy me on anything. I will tell HR only that a potential applicant may submit before the deadline, and that normal process should apply. Kemi folded her arms. And if I get rejected, you get rejected, and your father. He will complain about me for 1 week. Only 1? Possibly 2. This time Kemi did smile. Yusuf smiled back. Then she looked at the vacancy notice. There was something dangerous about hope. When you had recently been disappointed, it arrived dressed as possibility and asked you to risk humiliation again. Kemi picked up the paper. I don't want a thank you job. Yusuf's expression settled. Good. Because if I get into your company and people think I am there because of your father, I will spend every day paying for an act I did freely. I know, Mr. Bello, you understand it as a business issue. I will live it as a person. He was quiet, then he said, That is fair. Kemi folded the vacancy notice and put it inside her bag. I will read it. That is all I am asking. He left 5 minutes later. The receptionist waited exactly 11 seconds before rushing over. Kemi, no, I have not asked anything. You are about to ask 12 things. Only 1. Kemi sat down. The receptionist leaned closer. How do you know Yusuf Bello? Kemi picked up the next invoice. I don't. That evening, she opened the Coralink vacancy page after Zara went to bed. Then she closed it. 10 minutes later, she opened it again. The job fit. Not perfectly. Enough. It required 3 years of operations experience. She had 5. Experience with delivery coordination. Yes. Comfort with spreadsheets and performance reporting. Yes. Ability to work across teams. Yes. Though Kemi always thought job adverts said that when they really meant ability to survive people who refused to answer emails. The salary range was better than Apex routes. That made her suspicious of herself. Was she considering it because it was genuinely right for her, or because a billionaire had placed the idea in front of her? She shut the laptop. Zara appeared in the doorway wearing an oversized t-shirt and 1 sock. Why are you awake? Kemi asked. I wanted water. The kitchen is not through my bedroom. I know. Zara climbed onto the edge of the bed. What are you doing? Thinking. About work? Yes. Did they give you another interview? Another company has a job. Then apply. Kemi looked at her. It is not that simple. Why? The owner is the son of the man I helped. Zara processed this. Is that bad? It can be complicated. Did he say he will give you the job? No. Did he say you should apply? Yes. Can you do the job? Kemi's mouth tightened. Yes. Zara slid off the bed. Then why should you run away? Kemi stared at her daughter. Zara shrugged. I am going to drink water. After she left, Kemi sat in silence for a while. Then she opened the laptop. She applied at 11:42 p.m. No message to Yusuf, no special note, no mention of Musa. Just her CV, her cover letter, her employment history, and the uncomfortable decision to be seen again. 3 days later, an email arrived. She had passed screening. The next stage was a practical assessment. Kemi read the email twice. Then she checked the sender address to make sure it was real. The assessment was held in a training room at Coralink's Lagos office. 8 candidates sat at separate desks. Nobody greeted Kemi like the founder's guest. Good. A woman from HR introduced herself as Ronke Koka and explained the exercise. Each candidate received a simplified 3-week dataset from a fictional delivery cluster. The task was to identify the strongest drivers of late completion and propose corrective actions. 90 minutes. No internet. Basic calculator and spread software provided. Kemi looked at the first page. She almost smiled. This was work. Real work. Not a personality test asking whether she preferred being innovative or collaborative. She started with the obvious numbers. Late departures, driver absence, vehicle downtime, receiving delays. Then she noticed something that bothered her. The summary sheet listed 482 completed deliveries and 26 failed deliveries. The detailed dispatch log contained more scheduled service points than those 2 numbers could explain. Kemi checked again. She counted in cancellations. 31, they were not classified as failures. Some had valid reasons: customer closure, duplicate orders, unsafe access. But others were routes cancelled after capacity problems or late dispatch. In the summary, those events simply disappeared. The completion percentage therefore looked stronger than the underlying service experience. Kemi wrote a note. Before blaming drivers, verify what the measurement is rewarding. She then separated operational exceptions from service failures and recalculated the picture. The late completion problem was real, but not mainly a driver discipline problem, as the summary suggested. The planning schedule was too tight. Routes were overloaded on 2 specific weekdays. When delays became severe, dispatch sometimes cancelled lower priority stops, which protected the official completion rate while shifting the pain elsewhere. Kemi proposed 3 actions. First, recalculate performance with cancellations visible rather than erased. Second, add realistic route buffers based on the days with the highest congestion exposure. Third, test the revised schedule on one cluster before changing the whole network. She finished with 4 minutes left. Then she reread the answer and deleted one dramatic sentence she had written about transforming operations. She hated that phrase. Operations rarely transformed. They improved one badly designed handoff at a time. At the end, Ronke collected the submissions. Results will be communicated within 5 working days. Kemi left without seeing Yusuf. She was glad. 4 days later, she received another email. Final interview. The panel included Ronke from HR, a finance manager named Victor George, and Dami Johnson, director of network performance. Dami wore a charcoal suit with an emerald blouse. Her hair was cut short and neat. She had the stillness of somebody who did not waste movement. She had also read Kemi's assessment closely. Your submission challenged the dataset definition, Dami said. Yes. You were asked to identify drivers of late completion. I did, but you also questioned what counted as completion. Yes, why? Because if a failed commitment disappears before the performance calculation, the percentage can improve without service improving. Dami leaned back. So you assume the metric is wrong? No. I assume I should understand what it measures before using it to blame somebody. Victor glanced at Ronke. Ronke made a note. Dami's expression remained neutral. What if the exclusions were approved by management? Then I would want to know why. Would you challenge management? If the decision affected the work I was responsible for, I would ask the question through the right channel. And if management did not like the question, Kemi paused. That depends on whether they disliked my tone or the answer. Victor coughed into his hand to hide a smile. Dami did not smile, but she wrote something down. The rest of the interview was practical. Conflict between warehouse and dispatch, handling a failed route, prioritizing clients when capacity was short. Kemi answered from experience. She did not try to sound clever. She had learned that people who actually solved problems rarely described themselves as problem solvers every 5 minutes. 2 days later, Ronke called. Kemi, we would like to offer you a 3-month paid probationary appointment for the Operations Recovery Coordinator role. Kemi sat down on the edge of her bed. 3 months, yes. The role is structured that way for this intake. Permanent confirmation follows performance review. Was I the highest scoring candidate? Ronke was silent for half a second. Then she laughed softly. You are the first person who has asked me that before asking about salary. Was I? I cannot disclose other candidates' scores. I can tell you that your combined assessment met the selection threshold, and your practical submission was among the strongest. Kemi breathed out. Was Mr. Bello involved? Mr. Bello was not on the panel and did not score your application. Did he instruct you to select me? No. Kemi closed her eyes. Okay, Ronke continued. Would you like to hear the salary now? Kemi laughed for the first time that day. Yes, please, she accepted. When she told Zara that evening, the girl jumped so hard on the mattress that one pillow fell to the floor. I told you. You told me about the other job. Same thing. It is not the same thing. I said you would get a job. You did not say that. I meant it. Kemi picked up the pillow. You are already rewriting history at 9 years old. Zara grinned. Then her face became serious. Is this because of the old man? Kemi stopped. There it was again. The question that would follow her into Coralink, whether anybody said it aloud or not. She sat beside her daughter. The old man is why I heard about the opening. But you did the test. Yes. And the interview. Yes. So you got it. Kemi looked at her. Children could be too simple. Adults could be too complicated. Maybe the truth lived somewhere between them. I earned my place in the process, Kemi said. Zara frowned. That sounds like office English. Kemi burst out laughing. Go and brush your teeth. On her first Monday at Coralink, Kemi wore the same burnt orange blouse. Not for luck, for memory. She wanted to remember the woman who had stood outside Apex Route with a bent folder and no interview. She wanted that woman to know the story had not ended there. The lobby at Coralink was busy without being flashy. Drivers came through one entrance. Vendors waited near another. Staff badges flashed against shirts and jackets. A large digital screen showed service volumes across regions. Ronke met Kemi downstairs. Ready? Ronke smiled. Good answer. They rode the lift to the operations floor. The doors opened. Phones rang. A wall display tracked active dispatches. People moved quickly between desks. This was not the quiet, polished business world Kemi had expected from newspaper photographs of Yusuf Bello. This was a living system. Messy, fast, familiar. Then Dami Johnson looked up from across the floor and saw her. For 1 second, neither woman smiled. Dami walked over. Kemi. Good morning, Ma. Welcome to Network Performance. Thank you. Dami's eyes moved briefly to the orange blouse, then back to Kemi's face. 3 months goes quickly. Kemi understood the sentence. Probation was not a victory. It was a clock. I know, she said. Dami nodded. Good. Then she turned and walked away. Kemi watched the screens across the operations floor. The numbers were moving. Soon she would learn what they hid. The first week taught Kemi 2 things. First, Coralink was more complicated than it looked from outside. Second, everybody already knew why she was there. Not the official reason, the other reason. It started with kindness that was too careful. A man from planning offered to carry her laptop bag, even though it weighed less than his lunch. A woman from client service moved from a chair so Kemi could sit, then said, No, please. You take it, as if Kemi had become a visiting dignitary overnight. At lunch, a junior analyst named Toby asked, So, how is Baba? Kemi looked up from her rice. Which Baba? Toby's face changed. Ah, sorry. I mean Mr. Bello's father. He is fine. Thank God. A pause. Then Toby said, You really did not know who he was? No, and you stayed with him? Yes. Another pause. Wow. Kemi put down her fork. Toby. Yes? Did you come to lunch to interview me? He nearly choked. No, sorry. She smiled so he would know she was not angry. But the point had been made. The story had arrived before she had. By the second week, a different version appeared. Not admiration, suspicion. Kemi walked into the pantry one afternoon and heard two voices stop too quickly. One belonged to a warehouse liaison named Peter. The other belonged to somebody she could not see. Peter picked up his mug. Afternoon. He left. Kemi filled her bottle. As she turned, the second person came out from behind the partition. BC from scheduling. BC gave her a tired little smile. You know how office people are. Kemi screwed the cap onto her bottle. I don't know what they were saying. That is probably better. Kemi looked at her. BC lowered her voice. They are saying you are protected. By who? BC raised her eyebrows. Kemi almost laughed. Of course, I don't believe it. Do you know me well enough not to believe it? BC considered that. No. Then don't defend me yet. BC blinked. Kemi continued. Watch my work first. That sentence traveled too. Office sentences always traveled. By Friday, Dami called Kemi into her office. Dami's office was glass on two sides, but the blinds were usually half closed. On one wall hung printed dashboards from previous quarters, green arrows, improvement percentages, service milestones. Dami did not invite Kemi to sit immediately. She finished reading an email, typed a reply, then looked up. You are settling in? Yes. How is the team treating you? Kemi understood the trap inside the ordinary question. Professionally. Any issues? No material issues. Dami's eyebrows lifted slightly. Material? Kemi shrugged. I am in operations. Sit. Kemi sat. Dami folded her hands on the desk. I want us to be clear about something early. Okay. I did not oppose your appointment. Kemi said nothing. But I did raise a governance concern. Because of Mr. Bello. Because the founder referred a candidate who had a personal connection to his family. I did not have a personal connection to his family. You understand how it looks? Yes. Good. Then you also understand why I will not give you special treatment. I don't want special treatment. Dami leaned forward slightly. People say that until normal accountability feels like hostility. Kemi met her eyes. Then let us keep the accountability normal. The silence between them changed. Not open conflict. Not yet. Dami sat back. I have a cluster for you. She turned her monitor so Kemi could see. Southwest Lagos. Mixed retail and institutional deliveries. Performance has improved on paper, but complaints remain higher than target. Kemi looked at the screen. Why is it mine? You are Operations Recovery Coordinator. I know my title, then recover it. There it was. A challenge without shouting. Kemi looked closer. What access do I have? Standard probation access. Dispatch summaries, complaint logs, route reports. Anything else? Request through me or your line manager. Who is my line manager? Marcus Johnson in Regional Operations. Kemi paused. Johnson? Dami's face did not move. No relation. Okay. Dami almost smiled. Good question, though. Kemi left with the cluster file and one private rule. Write everything down. She had always worked that way, even before Coralink. Not because she distrusted everybody, because memory became political when things went wrong. So when Marcus asked her to review the complaint pattern, she wrote the request down. When Dami approved access to the dispatch summary, Kemi saved the approval email. When BC explained how route exceptions were coded, Kemi took notes and sent a short follow-up message confirming what she understood. When Peter told her receiving sites often called drivers directly instead of logging formal complaints, she asked which sites and why. Because the formal complaint process is slow, he said. So the dashboard misses some complaints. It misses plenty. Does management know? Peter gave her a look. Management knows what management asks to know. Kemi wrote that down too, not the sentence, the process problem beneath it. Over the next 2 weeks, she followed the cluster from desk to road and back again. She spent one morning at the dispatch yard watching vans load. She noticed drivers sometimes waited 20 minutes for late paperwork, while the official departure clock started only after the document was released. She sat with BC and watched schedulers rebuild routes after customer changes. She listened to client service calls where customers complained about deliveries that the dashboard showed as customer exception. Some classifications were legitimate. Some were not clearly wrong. They were simply convenient. That bothered Kemi more. Fraud was easy to hate. Convenience was harder. One Friday, she sat at her desk after most of the team had left for lunch. The monthly dashboard was open on one screen. The detailed dispatch export was open on another. She had been trying to reconcile the two for almost an hour. The official completion rate for the cluster was 96.4%. The number looked excellent. The complaint pattern did not. Kemi pulled out a notebook and started counting manually. Completed, failed, customer unavailable, unsafe access. Cancelled before dispatch, cancelled after dispatch. Route capacity exceeded, vehicle failure. She stopped, then counted again. The denominator used for the official KPI excluded several cancellation categories entirely. Not all cancellations, specific ones, especially ones that would make the operation itself look responsible. She checked the framework note attached to the dashboard. There it was in small language nobody normally read after the first week of a job. Service commitments removed prior to final dispatch confirmation were excluded from the completion calculation. Kemi stared at the sentence. Technically, the metric did what it said it did. The question was whether what it did was useful. Bissy returned from lunch carrying a plastic container. "You have not eaten?" Kemi looked up. "What? You are still in the same position. I found something." Bissy stopped chewing. That was all. She did not ask what. Kemi noticed. "Do you know why pre-n cancellations are excluded from completion?" Bissy looked toward Dami's glass office. Dami was not there. "It has always been like that." "That is not an answer. It is the answer people use." Kemi swiveled the screen. If a route is overloaded and operations cancels 6 stops before final dispatch confirmation, those 6 stops disappear from the completion rate. Bissy nodded reluctantly. "Yes, but the customers were promised delivery." "Yes, so service failed." Bissy lowered her voice. "Kemi, what? You are new. I know, then learn the room before you rearrange the chairs." Kemi sat back. It was good advice. Maybe. "Who approved the framework?" she asked. Bissy's face closed. "I don't know. Does Dami?" "Kemi, I am asking a process question. And I am telling you there are process questions that are bigger than the person asking them." Bissy picked up her lunch and walked away. Kemi looked back at the dashboard. 96.4%. Beautiful. Too beautiful. That afternoon she booked 15 minutes with Dami. Dami came into the meeting carrying her laptop and no patience. "What do you have?" Kemi projected one slide. "I'm reconciling customer complaints against the completion KPI for my cluster. And the metric excludes service commitments removed before final dispatch confirmation." Dami looked at her. "Yes, why?" "That is the approved reporting framework." "Approved by whom?" Dami's face became very still. "You are asking the wrong question. What is the right one?" "Whether the framework is being applied consistently. It is then good. No, not good." Dami closed her laptop without opening it. "Careful." Kemi heard the warning. She also heard the opportunity to retreat. Instead, she said, "If a commitment disappears from the denominator because we cancel it, our completion rate can improve while customers receive worse service. We do not cancel deliveries to improve performance." "I didn't say we do. You implied it." "I said the measurement allows a failure to become invisible." Dami leaned back. "Kemi, metrics are definitions. Every business defines scope. You cannot count every event the same way." "I agree. Good. But the exceptions should still be visible." "They are visible in the underlying reports, not in the headline KPI management sees." Dami's eyes narrowed. "You have been here 3 weeks." "Yes. I have managed this reporting environment for 7 years." "Then you probably know the reason better than I do." "I do. Then tell me." The words came out quieter than Kemi expected. Dami looked at her for a long moment. Finally, she said, Because the completion KPI is designed to measure dispatch execution against confirmed routes, not every commercial promise made upstream. There are separate reports for capacity and customer cancellations. That was a real answer. Kemi respected it. It still did not solve the problem. Do the separate reports reach the same review? Dami's jaw shifted. Different measures answer different questions. Does the quarterly performance review see the cancellations beside the completion rate? Silence. Kemi had her answer. Dami stood. We are done. Kemi remained seated for a second. Then she closed her notebook. Okay. As she reached the door, Dami said, "One more thing." Kemi turned. "Do not confuse access with authority." "I don't." "Good. Because probation is for learning as much as performing." Kemi nodded. "And sometimes learning means understanding why a system exists before declaring it broken. That is exactly what I am trying to do." Dami's expression hardened. Kemi left. That evening, she did not tell Zara any of it. Instead, she fried eggs, helped with homework, and listened to Zara explain why one girl in class had stopped speaking to another girl because of a pencil that nobody actually owned. Ordinary life restored scale. At 9, after Zara slept, Kemi opened her work notebook on the small table in the living room. She wrote 3 headings: what the KPI measures, what the customer experiences, what management sees. Under the last heading, she wrote 1 sentence. If these are different realities, somebody needs to know. Then she closed the notebook. The next Monday gave her the answer in a way no spreadsheet could. A community outreach center in Surulere had a scheduled delivery of hygiene packs, bottled water, and basic supplies for a free family support program. The shipment was not life-saving medicine. No child would die if it arrived a day late. That mattered. Kemi hated stories where every operational mistake required somebody to nearly die before adults took it seriously. Most failures hurt people in smaller, less cinematic ways. Those still counted. The center had planned a distribution morning for 70 families. Volunteers were already there. Some recipients had traveled across town. At 8:20 a.m., the route carrying their supplies suffered a vehicle issue. At 8:37, dispatch tried to transfer the stops to another van. At 9:05, capacity ran out. At 9:18, 3 lower priority stops were removed from the route. The outreach center was one of them. Because the removal happened before final route confirmation, the stop would not count as a failed completion. BC called Kemi. "Your cluster has a problem." Kemi was already looking at the screen. "I see it. Client service says the center is angry." "They should be." "Can you recover?" Kemi checked available vehicles. None nearby. She checked a third-party backup provider. Earliest collection would be early afternoon. The center's program ended at 2. She called Marcus. "I can get the delivery there around 1:30 if I use the backup provider. That is barely useful." "I know. Any internal van?" "Nothing without breaking another committed route." Marcus was silent. "Do not rob Peter to pay Paul." "I won't." "What is the client asking?" "To know whether to send people home." Kemi looked at the status board. "Tell them the truth," Marcus said. It was the right answer. Kemi called the center herself. The coordinator, a woman named Grace, answered on the second ring. "Please don't tell me your driver is 5 minutes away." Kemi appreciated her immediately. "He is not. Good. At least we have left lying behind. My name is Kemi. I am reviewing the route. We had a vehicle failure this morning, and your stop was removed when the replacement capacity filled. So you forgot us, no. We failed to serve you today." The difference mattered to Kemi. Grace was quiet. "What can you do?" "I can arrange a late delivery around 1:30. But I understand that may be too late for today's distribution." "It is too late." "Then I can move the delivery to the first route tomorrow and ask client service to work with you on rescheduling the program. People paid transport to come here today." "I know." "No, you don't." Kemi let that pass. Grace continued. "One woman came from Badagry side. Do you know what that means for her morning?" Kemi looked down. "Yes, I do." "Then don't give me corporate English." "I won't." A pause. Grace's voice softened slightly. "What happened?" Kemi explained plainly. "No excuses. When the call ended, the center chose to scale down the program and reschedule the supply-dependent portion. It was not catastrophe. It was 70 people losing time because an operation failed. At noon, the dashboard refreshed. The completion rate remained green. Kemi stared at it. That was the moment the problem stopped being an argument about definitions. A number had just refused to see 70 people. She stood and went to Dami's office. Dami was on a call. Kemi waited outside. When the call ended, Dami waved her in. What? The outreach center route, I heard. It will not appear as a failed completion. It will appear in the exception report. The headline KPI stays green. Yes, that is the problem. Dami rubbed 2 fingers against her forehead. Kemi, not today. Why not today? Because I have a quarterly review pack due, 2 regional managers arguing over capacity, and a warehouse backlog from the weekend, and this is connected to all 3. Dami looked up sharply. Kemi continued before fear could edit her. I want approval to run a 4-week pilot on the cluster. Keep the official KPI if management wants it, but show cancelled commitments separately beside it. Add route buffers on Monday and Thursday based on actual delay patterns. Track whether complaints fall. Dami stared at her. You want to make the performance look worse before quarterly review. I want to make the performance visible. It is visible, not where decisions are made. Dami stood. Enough. The word was quiet. That made it heavier. You have become very confident very quickly. I am asking to test an idea. You are questioning a reporting structure you do not fully understand. Then let me test it. No, why? Because I said no. There it was. The end of process. Not because the data had answered the question, because authority had. Kemi slowly closed her notebook. Okay, she left. For the rest of the afternoon, she tried to work, but the dashboard kept returning to her mind. Green. The outreach center had failed to receive what was promised. Green. Volunteers had apologized to families for a problem they did not cause. Green. The company would discuss performance in a quarterly review and celebrate an improvement that depended partly on removing the failures it had created. Green. At 5:30, most of the team began leaving. BC stopped at Kemi's desk. You went to Dami again. How do you know? Because this office has walls made of glass and people made of gossip. Kemi rubbed her eyes. She rejected the pilot. I knew she would. Why? Bissy looked around. Quarterly performance affects budgets. Budgets affect promotions. Promotions affect everybody's mood. That is not an answer. It is more of an answer than you think. Kemi looked at her. BC sighed. Go home. I have one thing to finish. What? A risk note. BC's face changed. No. Kemi looked up. No, not during probation. That is when the issue happened. I am serious. So am I. BC pulled the chair beside Kemi's desk and sat. Listen to me. I have been here 4 years. Dami is not stupid. If you put this into a formal risk channel, it stops being a conversation. It becomes a record. Yes. And once it becomes a record, people must respond. Yes. And you think they will thank you? No. Then why? Kemi looked at the dashboard. Because if I stay quiet, then I become part of the reason the number stays green. BC's leaned back. You have a child. Kemi's eyes moved to her. I know. You need this job. I know. Then act like somebody who needs it. The sentence hurt because it was true. Kemi needed the job. She needed the salary, the predictable hours, the health plan, the school fee certainty. She needed all of it. That was exactly why the choice mattered. If she had nothing to lose, speaking would be cheap. Kemi looked down at her hands. I missed one job because I helped somebody, she said quietly. I cannot keep losing jobs every time I try to do what is right. BC softened. Exactly. Kemi looked up. But I also cannot build a career by learning when to look away. BC had no answer to that. Neither did Kemi. At 7:15, the office was almost empty. Kemi opened the formal operational risk template. She did not accuse Dami of manipulation. She did not use words like deception or fraud. She wrote only what she could support. Current completion reporting excludes certain cancelled service commitments from the headline denominator. In cluster SW4, those exclusions correlate with customer complaints, not represented in completion performance. This creates a risk that management decisions may be based on an incomplete view of service failure. She attached the outreach center example. She attached the proposed pilot. Then she stopped. The submit button waited. Kemi looked at the photo of Zara on her phone wallpaper, 9 years old. Missing front tooth. Trying to look serious and failing, Kemi whispered, "Please let me not be foolish." Then she pressed submit. The screen displayed a confirmation number. There was no thunder, no music, no dramatic phone call, just a small line of text telling her the risk note had been received. Kemi stared at it. Her probation had 6 weeks left. For the first time since she joined Coralink, getting the permanent job was no longer the only thing she wanted. Now she wanted to know what kind of company she was trying so hard to stay in. The answer began arriving the next morning, not as a memo, as absence. At 9:15, Bissy leaned over the partition between their desks. "Are you joining the capacity meeting?" Kemi looked at her calendar. "What capacity meeting?" Bissy's face fell. "The Monday planning meeting. I know which one. It disappeared from my calendar." Bissy checked her own screen. Maybe they changed the list. "Who is they?" Bissy sat back. Neither woman said Dami's name. 10 minutes later, Marcus messaged Kemi. "Come see me when free." She went immediately. Marcus Johnson was a broad-shouldered man with a quiet voice, and the permanently tired eyes of somebody who had spent too many years solving yesterday's problems before breakfast. He closed his office door. "You submitted a formal operational risk note." "Yes. You did not tell me first." "I raised the issue with Dami twice. I proposed a pilot. It was declined. That is not the same as telling your line manager you were moving it into formal risk." Kemi accepted that. "No, it isn't. Why didn't you?" "Because I thought you would tell me not to." Marcus stared at her. "At least you are honest. Was I wrong?" He rubbed his jaw. "To submit it? Yes. I don't know yet." Kemi waited. Marcus continued. "Your note is technically careful." "Thank you." That was not praise. Understood. You have created work for people above your level. If the risk is real, the work already existed. Marcus gave her a long look. "You and Dami are going to kill me." Kemi almost smiled. Marcus did not. "Listen, do your work. Do not discuss the note across the team. If risk or internal audit contacts you, answer what they ask and nothing more." "Okay. And stop behaving like probation makes you invisible." Kemi frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means people notice how you move. Is that a warning?" "It is advice. From you or from Dami?" Marcus's face closed slightly. "Go back to work, Kemi." By Tuesday, her access request for detailed receiving confirmations was still pending. By Wednesday, Dami reassigned one of Kemi's regular reporting tasks to another coordinator without explanation. By Thursday, Kemi received a probation feedback note. Strengths, analytical rigor, written communication, customer focus, development areas, collaboration, respect for reporting hierarchy, judgment regarding escalation. Kemi read the last phrase 3 times. Judgment regarding escalation. She clicked the attached examples. There were none. She requested a feedback meeting. Dami scheduled it for Friday at 4:30. When Kemi entered, Dami was standing by the window. "Sit," Kemi sat. Dami remained standing. "You asked for examples?" "Yes." "You submitted a formal risk note without first exhausting line management discussion." "I raised the issue with you. You raised a technical disagreement with me. I raised an operational risk. After I explained the metric. You explained what it measures. You did not explain why the exceptions are absent from the management view." Dami turned. "This is what I mean by judgment." Kemi felt heat move up her neck. She kept her voice level. "Is the risk note part of my probation assessment?" "Your decision-making is part of your probation assessment." "That was not my question." Dami's eyes sharpened. "Yes, it is relevant. Then please document that the escalation is being treated as a negative performance example." Dami stared at her. "What are you doing?" "Making sure I understand the feedback. You understand it. Then documenting it should not be a problem." For the first time, Dami lost some of her stillness. Her hand moved against the edge of the desk. "You think paperwork makes you safe?" Kemi answered before she could reconsider. "No, I think paperwork makes people precise." Silence. Dami sat down slowly. Kemi, let me tell you something nobody will tell you, because everybody is afraid of your connection. I don't have a connection. You have the founder's attention. I have not spoken to him since I joined. That is not the point. What is the point? The point is that you can afford to be brave, because everybody assumes there is somebody behind you. The accusation landed harder than Kemi expected. Because part of it was possible. Would she have submitted the note if she had entered Coralink with no link to Yusuf at all? She wanted to say yes immediately. She did not. Dami saw the hesitation. Kemi sat straighter. No, I am thinking. About what? Whether you are right. Dami's expression shifted. Kemi continued. I don't know if knowing Mr. Bello would hear my name if I disappeared from this office made the risk easier. Maybe it did. Dami leaned back. At least we are getting somewhere. But that does not make the KPI accurate. Dami's face hardened again. Kemi stood. And it does not make it acceptable to score me down for using an official risk channel, unless that is genuinely a performance standard applied to everyone. Sit down. I think we are finished. Kemi. She stopped at the door. Dami's voice dropped. Do not mistake stubbornness for integrity. Kemi turned. Do not mistake authority for correctness. She walked out before her hands could start shaking. They shook in the toilet 5 minutes later. That annoyed her most. She locked herself in a stall, pressed both palms against her knees, and waited for the tremor to pass. She was not fearless. Fearless people were usually either lying or not paying attention. She was afraid of losing the job. Afraid of becoming that woman again, carrying a folder home with no interview and no plan. Afraid Zara would hear, Mummy lost another opportunity, and ask another simple question Kemi did not know how to answer. She washed her hands, looked at herself in the mirror and said quietly, do the work. So she did. For the next week, Kemi stopped discussing the metric with colleagues. She focused on the cluster. She worked with drivers on departure bottlenecks. She moved 2 loading cut-off times after Marcus approved a small schedule change. She persuaded client service to flag high-cost missed commitments before route finalization. She did not need Dami's permission for every local improvement. The results were modest. Complaint volume dropped. Late departures improved slightly, nothing miraculous, but the direction was real. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, her system access was suspended. Kemi stared at the login screen. Access denied. She tried again. Same message. Her phone rang immediately. Ronki from HR. Kemi, please come to meeting room 4. Kemi's stomach tightened. Now? Yes. Is Dami there? Yes. Kemi looked across the floor. Dami's office was empty. BC caught Kemi's eye. Kemi picked up her notebook and walked to meeting room 4. Ronki sat on one side of the table. Dami sat on the other. A man Kemi had seen but never worked with directly sat near the end. He introduced himself as Dele Okoro from Information Governance. Ronki pointed to the empty chair. Please sit, Kemi did. Dele opened a folder. We are reviewing a concern regarding the handling of internal operational information. Kemi's mouth went dry. What concern? D looked at his notes. An internal document containing non-public performance data was forwarded outside the approved reporting chain. Kemi looked at Dami. Dami's expression was unreadable. Dele continued. Your account appears in the document history. What document? He named the cluster performance working file. Kemi knew it immediately. I created a copy for the risk submission. To whom did you send it? The operational risk portal. Anywhere else? Did you send it to Mr. Yusuf Bello? Kemi stared. No. Did you discuss the content with him? No. Did you send it to Mr. Musa Bello? Kemi almost laughed from shock. No. Ronki spoke carefully. Kemi, there is an allegation that information may have been shared outside the normal management chain because of your relationship with the founder's family. Kemi turned to Dami. Is that your allegation? Dami answered without hesitation. I raised a concern after seeing that the file had been included in a channel beyond the immediate operational reporting structure. The risk portal is an approved internal channel. Dale held up a hand. We are separating the questions. First, where did the information go? Second, whether the access and submission were appropriate. Kemi nodded. Good. She pulled her notebook closer. I want the exact file version. Deal looked at her. We can provide the version identifier. I also want the access log for my account. That is part of our review and the risk submission record. Yes. Dami's lips tightened. Kemi noticed. Dele continued his questions. Which devices had Kemi used? Had she downloaded files locally? Had she emailed herself any material? Had Yusuf contacted her about the risk note? Had anybody asked her to collect evidence? No. Kemi answered each one plainly. Then she remembered something. The file attached to the risk note was generated from the workspace folder at 1854 on the day I submitted. Dee looked up. You remember the time? I remember because the office was nearly empty, and I checked whether the export had completed before the system maintenance window. Do you have proof? The workspace should. Deal wrote it down. Kemi added, I also emailed Marcus at 1858, saying I had completed the cluster review for the day. I did not attach the file, but it establishes where I was working. Marcus had not replied until the next morning. At the time, it had meant nothing. Now it mattered, not because Kemi had been secretly building a defense, because ordinary work left ordinary traces. The meeting lasted 40 minutes. At the end, Ronka said, Your access will remain temporarily restricted while information governance completes the review. How long? Likely 1 to 3 working days. And my probation work. We will account for the interruption. Kemi looked at Dami. Will the allegation itself appear in my performance review before it is resolved? Ronka answered before Dami could. No conclusion will be recorded as fact before review. Kemi nodded. Thank you. She left the room. Bisi stood when Kemi returned to the floor. What happened? I cannot discuss it. Bisi searched her face. Are you okay? No, that was all Kemi gave her. She packed her bag because without system access, there was little she could do. As she reached the lift, her phone vibrated. Yusuf Bello. For the first time since joining Coralink, he was calling her. Kemi stared at the name. Every frightened part of her wanted to answer. He could fix this. One call from him to HR, and the suspicion would disappear. One sentence from the founder, and everybody would remember who she knew. Kemi let the phone ring, then stop. A message followed. My father asked whether you had settled into the role. I realized I never checked. Hope you are well. Kemi stood in the lift lobby reading it. The timing was almost cruel. Her thumb hovered over the reply box. She typed, I am fine, thank you. Then deleted it. She typed, there is an issue at work. Deleted that too. Finally, she wrote, thank you for checking. I am dealing with the usual probation learning curve. Please greet your father for me. She sent it. The lift arrived. Kemi stepped inside. Her reflection in the metal doors looked tired. Usual probation learning curve, she muttered. Even she did not believe that office English. At home, Zara knew something was wrong before Kemi put down her bag. You came early. Yes, did they sack you? Kemi stared at her. Why is that your first question? Because adults come home early when something happens. Who taught you that? Television. Kemi took off her shoes. No, they did not sack me. Then what happened? There is a work issue. Did you do something bad? No. Zara studied her face. Then why are you scared? Kemi sat down slowly. Children again. Always going where adults spent money avoiding. Because sometimes you can do nothing wrong and still have to prove it. Zara frowned. That is also not fair. No, will you prove it? I hope so. Zara climbed onto the sofa beside her. Do you have evidence? Kemi turned. What kind of television are you watching? Zara laughed. Kemi laughed too. It broke the pressure for 3 seconds. She needed all 3. 2 days later, Deal called her back to meeting room 4. This time, Dami was not there. Ronki was. Dealy placed a printed summary on the table. We completed the access review. Kemi waited. The file did not leave approved internal systems through your account. Her shoulders dropped before she could stop them, Dealy continued. The version attached to the operational risk submission was generated from your authorized workspace. It was uploaded directly to the internal portal. No external forwarding was identified from your account or device. Kemi exhaled slowly. So the allegation is closed. The information handling allegation against you is unsubstantiated. unsubstantiated or false. Deal looked at her carefully. We can establish that we found no evidence you shared the file outside authorized channels. That was the correct answer. Kemi appreciated it. Truth did not need dramatic adjectives. Ronki added, "Your access will be restored today." Kemi nodded. Then she asked, "What about the risk note?" Ronki and Deely exchanged a glance. "That is separate," Ronki said. Meaning the fact that your submission was properly handled does not resolve whether the reporting issue you raised is valid. Kemi sat back. Good. That mattered. Too often, people treated one proven fact as if it proved every argument around it. She had not leaked a file. That did not automatically make her right about the KPI. "What happens next?" Ronke said. "Risk has referred the matter for independent operational review." Kemi looked at her. "Independent from Dami?" "Yes." "Independent from Mr. Bello?" Ronke paused. "Yes." Something in Kemi's chest loosened. "Thank you." As she stood, Ronke stopped her. "Kemi." "Yes?" "Document your work. But don't turn your life into a courtroom." Kemi almost smiled. "I am trying not to." "Good, because if you spend every day collecting proof that people may hurt you, you will stop doing the job." Kemi carried that sentence back to her desk. It stayed with her. So did another message waiting in her inbox. From Dami. Subject, revised reporting structure. Effective immediately, Kemi would report through Marcus for all cluster analysis and would no longer attend direct network performance review meetings pending completion of probation. No accusation, no insult, just a door quietly closing. Kemi looked through the glass wall toward Dami's office. Dami was inside, speaking to someone on the phone. For one moment, their eyes met. Dami did not look away, neither did Kemi. Then Kemi turned back to her screen. The review had cleared her conduct. Now the harder question remained. What if the system itself had been built to make failure disappear? Musa Bello heard about the trouble before Yusuf intended to tell him. Not from Kemi, not from somebody leaking company information. From Yusuf's face. Musa had spent 41 years reading that face. The injury had kept him home longer than he liked. His ankle was healing, but the doctor had warned him against behaving as though discomfort were proof of strength. Musa had repeated the sentence with contempt for 3 days, then quietly started using the walking support exactly as instructed. On a Saturday afternoon, Yusuf came to his house carrying groceries Musa had not requested. "You think because I fell once, I have stopped knowing how to buy fruit?" Musa asked. "I did not buy fruit." Musa looked inside the bag. "There are oranges. Those are not the reason I came." "So you brought accidental oranges." Yusuf set the bag on the kitchen counter. "Daddy." Musa smiled. Then he studied his son more carefully. "What happened?" "Nothing. Your nothing has a forehead line." Yusuf touched his forehead without thinking. Musa pointed at him. "See?" Yusuf gave up. "There is an internal review at Coralink." "About what?" "Operational reporting." "And why does your face look like somebody insulted your ancestors?" Yusuf hesitated. Kemi raised the issue. Musa's expression changed immediately. "What happened to her?" "She is fine." That answer is useless. She is still working. There was also a separate information handling concern. She was cleared. Musa put down the orange he had picked up. Information handling concern. An allegation that she shared internal data outside the approved chain. With you? That was one of the questions. Musa's eyes hardened. "She did not, I know." "How do you know?" Yusuf stopped. Musa lifted one eyebrow. "Careful. You just told me she was cleared because the company checked. Do not now tell me your belief was enough." Yusuf almost smiled. "You are enjoying this, a little." I had not spoken to her about work. Good. Her account logs also showed no external sharing. Better. Musa leaned on the counter. "What is the reporting issue?" Yusuf explained only what he could properly discuss. A concern that certain cancelled service commitments were excluded from a headline completion metric, possibly creating an incomplete picture for management. Musa listened without interrupting. That worried Yusuf more than interruptions would have. When he finished, Musa asked, "Who owns the metric? Network performance. Who runs network performance?" Dami Johnson. Musa knew the name. He had met Dami at company functions over the years. Competent, sharp, One of the people Yusuf had once described as able to carry a difficult room without announcing she was carrying it. Musa frowned. And Kemi is on probation under that function. Yes, and the woman whose reporting she challenged has influence over whether she stays. Not sole influence, but yes. Musa made a sound through his teeth. Protect her. Yusuf did not answer. Musa repeated it. Protect her. I can't. You can. I should not. Musa's eyes flashed. This woman missed an interview because she carried me to a clinic. Now she enters your company, and somebody is trying to push her out because she asked a question. What is the point of all your power if you cannot stop nonsense? Yusuf looked at him. That is exactly the question. Musa frowned. What? The point of my power? Don't start philosophy with me. I am serious. So am I. Yusuf pulled out a chair and sat. If I call HR and say Kemi must stay, what happens? She stays. And what happens to every review after that? Musa's jaw tightened. What happens to every colleague who thinks she is protected? Yusuf continued. What happens if her analysis is wrong? What happens if Dami is right about the metric? What happens if Kemi makes a mistake next month? Who can evaluate her honestly after the founder has announced his preference? Musa looked away. Yusuf leaned forward. I can protect the process. I cannot protect her result. Musa was quiet. Then he said, that sounds like something rich people say when they want to feel clean. Yusuf accepted the blow. Maybe. Musa looked at him again. Are you doing nothing? No. What are you doing? I have asked governance to confirm that the operational review reports outside network performance and outside my office. The board audit chair has been notified because the issue touches performance reporting. I will not sit on the review. I will not receive draft findings. I will not participate in Kemi's probation decision. Musa's expression softened, but not much. And Dami, she gets the same procedural protection. Musa scoffed. Of course, yes, of course. Why? Because if we decide she is guilty before the review, we are doing to her what you are angry they did to Kemi. Musa stared at him. Then he picked up an orange. You are irritating when you make sense. I inherited it. Musa pointed the orange at him. Do not overuse that joke. They were both smiling when the tension finally broke. Then Musa's face became serious again. Does Kemi know you stepped away? No. Tell her. I don't think I should contact her during the review. Musa opened his mouth. Yusuf raised a hand. Please. Let me finish one good decision before you destroy it. Musa shook his head. Too much English, but he let it go. The independent review began the following Monday. Kemi knew because Marcus called her into his office and handed her a schedule. 3 interviews, one with internal audit, one with a representative from Operations Excellence, one with HR present. You are not on trial, Marcus said. That sentence always makes people feel like they are on trial. He rubbed his face. Kemi. Sorry. The review is looking at the reporting framework, how it was applied, and whether your probation feedback was handled properly after you raised the issue. Kemi looked at him. After? Yes, so retaliation is part of it. I did not say retaliation. You described it. Marcus sighed. Answer what they ask. I will. And do not make every silence an admission. Kemi almost smiled. You have been waiting to say that for 3 weeks. Her first interview was with an auditor named Sola Williams and an operations excellence manager named Grace Johnson. Kemi briefly wondered whether Nigeria had secretly agreed to give everybody the same 5 surnames, then remembered this was not the time to say it aloud. Sola started with the simplest question. What exactly concerned you? Kemi did not say manipulation. She did not say Dami was hiding failure. She opened the process map she had prepared. A customer commitment enters planning here. A route is built here. Final dispatch confirmation happens here. The completion KPI begins counting only confirmed route stops. If operations removes a committed stop before that confirmation point, the service failure remains visible in an exception report, but disappears from the headline completion denominator. Grace pointed at the diagram. Is that always inappropriate? No. The answer surprised them. Kemi continued. Some exclusions are valid. Duplicate orders, customer closures, safety constraints. My concern is that operationally caused cancellations are treated the same way in the headline view. So what do you believe the KPI proves? Solar asked. That confirmed routes are executed at a high rate. And what does it not prove? That the company fulfills the same percentage of customer commitments. Solar wrote something down. There it was. The whole issue in 2 sentences. Not scandal, scope. Then the review moved deeper. How long had the reporting method existed? Kemi did not know. Who designed it? Kemi did not know. Did she believe Dami created it to deceive management? I don't have evidence for that. Did Dami refuse her pilot because of the quarterly review? She said she did not want to make performance look worse before the quarterly review. Exact words, as close as I can remember. I did not record the conversation. Did you document it afterward? Yes, in my work notes. Kemi handed over the dated note. It did not prove Dami's intention. It proved what Kemi remembered at the time before a formal investigation existed. That distinction mattered. The review team then asked about the outreach center. Kemi showed the route timeline. 8:20 vehicle issue, 8:37 transfer attempt, 9:05 capacity exhausted, 9:18 stop removed. The customer commitment had been real. The delivery failure had been real. The headline completion KPI had not moved. Grace sat back. That is useful. Kemi nodded. It is also one example. I don't want one example treated as proof of a whole system problem. Solar looked at her. You are arguing against your own case. No. I am asking you to check the pattern. That answer changed the room. Solar closed the outreach file. We are. The pattern took time. That was the part nobody enjoyed. Truth in companies rarely arrived like lightning. It arrived in spreadsheets, version histories, meeting packs, old emails, definitions people had stopped questioning, and comments buried beneath other comments. The review team sampled several months of reports. They compared headline completion with exception categories. They interviewed regional managers. They checked whether cancellations were ever discussed beside completion performance. Sometimes they were. Often they were not. They reviewed the quarterly packs sent to senior management. The packs did not falsify the completion rate. They presented it without enough context. Then they found something more serious. 2 years earlier, an analyst had proposed adding an unserved commitment rate beside completion. The proposal had reached Dami. Her response was in an email thread. Not dramatic, not criminal, but clear. Adding the figure at that time would, in her words, create avoidable negative interpretation when current service recovery programs are still maturing. She suggested keeping the exception data in operational appendices until performance stabilized. Months passed. The number never joined the headline report. Later emails showed regional managers being reminded to classify removals before final confirmation where the definition allowed it. Again, the language was careful. No one wrote, hide failures. People rarely wrote the worst version of what they meant. But the effect was measurable. Operationally caused cancellations were disproportionately invisible in executive-level performance reporting. The review also examined Kemi's probation file. Her first performance notes, written before the risk submission, were strong. Analytical ability, high. Customer judgment, high. Collaboration, satisfactory. After the risk submission, collaboration fell. Judgment fell. Her access requests slowed. Meeting invitations disappeared. Dami had documented reasons for each decision. Taken alone, none proved retaliation. Together, the timing raised a question the review could not ignore. So they interviewed Dami. Kemi was not there. She did not know what Dami said until much later. Dami did not confess. She defended herself. She said the completion metric had always been defined correctly. True. She said exception reporting existed. True. She said Kemi had escalated prematurely. Arguable. She said probation evaluation required judgment, not just technical skill. True. Then Solar asked why Kemi's collaboration rating dropped immediately after the risk note when there were no negative collaboration examples before it. Dami said Kemi had become difficult to manage. What did she do? She challenged authority repeatedly. Did she refuse work? No. Did she miss deadlines? No. Did she behave disrespectfully toward colleagues? Not in a disciplinary sense. Did she bypass an official process? She used a formal risk channel without my support. Solar reportedly asked, Is using that channel without managerial support prohibited? It was not. Dami's position weakened not because she admitted wrongdoing, but because her own standards became too difficult to separate from her irritation at being challenged. The review lasted just over 3 weeks. During those weeks, Kemi kept working. That became the hardest part of the story for her. Not the confrontation, not the allegation, waiting. Every morning she entered an office where people knew something was happening, but did not know what. Some colleagues avoided her. Others became too friendly. BC stopped trying to protect her from gossip and started giving her work instead. That helped. One Tuesday, BC dropped a route sheet on Kemi's desk. Your Monday buffer idea. Kemi looked up. What about it? Marcus approved a limited test. 2 routes only. No reporting change. Kemi sat straighter. Why didn't he tell me? He told me to tell you because he is enjoying his small power. Kemi laughed. They ran the test. No miracle. The routes left 8 minutes earlier on average. Late receiving windows dropped modestly. 2 cancellations were avoided. Complaints decreased in the tiny sample. Kemi documented the limits. 4 weeks was too short. 2 routes were not enough. The result was encouraging, not conclusive. That wording irritated Marcus. You enjoy refusing to sound impressive. I enjoy sleeping. What does that have to do with it? If I exaggerate the result, I have to remember the exaggeration later. Marcus stared at her. Then he laughed until somebody outside his office looked in. For the first time since the risk note, Kemi felt normal at work. Then the review meeting appeared on her calendar. Friday, 10 a.m., Conference Room 2. Subject: Operational Reporting Review, Findings and Actions. Attendees included HR, Internal Audit, Operations Excellence, Marcus, Dami and 2 senior executives. Yusuf's name was not there. Kemi looked twice. Still not there. She did not know whether to feel relieved or abandoned. On Friday morning, she wore navy. No orange blouse. No attempt to summon the woman from the first interview. She had stopped needing clothes to tell her who she was. Before leaving home, Zara looked up from breakfast. Is today the big meeting? Yes. Will they sack the bad woman? Kemi nearly dropped her keys. Who told you there is a bad woman? You. I did not. You said there is a woman who does not like your report. That does not make her bad. Zara chewed thoughtfully. Okay. Will they sack the woman who may or may not be bad? Kemi laughed despite herself. I don't know. Will they sack you? I don't know. Zara frowned. You don't know anything. Correct. Mummy, what? If they don't keep you, can you still get another job? Kemi looked at her daughter. A month earlier, the question would have frightened her. Now it did something else. Yes, she meant it. That surprised her. Yes, she said again. I can. Zara nodded and returned to her bread. At 10 o'clock, Kemi entered Conference Room 2. Dami was already there. Charcoal suit, emerald blouse, straight back. For the first time, Kemi noticed how tired she looked around the eyes. Kemi sat across from her. Nobody greeted theatrically. Nobody shouted. Sola Williams opened the meeting. Thank you for attending. We will cover the review findings in 3 parts: reporting design, management use, and employment process concerns. He projected the first slide. The completion metric itself was correctly calculated according to its written definition. Dami's shoulders eased slightly. Kemi did not react. Then came the second finding. The headline metric did not provide a sufficiently complete view of customer service fulfillment because certain operationally caused cancellations were excluded from the denominator and not consistently presented alongside it. The room went still. Sola continued. In sample periods, this created material divergence between reported completion performance and total committed service outcomes. One senior executive asked, "Are you saying the reports were false?" Sola answered, "No. We are saying they were incomplete for the management decisions they were being used to support." Kemi felt something inside her settle. That sentence mattered. Not false, incomplete, truth without exaggeration. The review recommended a revised reporting pack. Confirmed route completion would remain, but it would sit beside unserved commitments, cancellation reasons, and exception trends. No category would simply vanish from the management conversation because it fell outside one metric. Then came the historical review. Sola summarized the older proposal to add an unserved commitment measure. He described Dami's decision to keep it out of the headline pack. Dami spoke for the first time. That decision was made in context. We were stabilizing a network under pressure. Introducing another negative metric without mature controls would have confused management and led to reactive decisions. Grace from Operations Excellence responded, "That explains delaying it. It does not explain leaving it out for 2 years." Dami's mouth tightened. "We maintained the exception reports below executive review level. They were available. Availability is not visibility." The phrase sat heavily in the room. Kemi did not look at Dami. She looked at her hands. Then Sola moved to the probation process. He did not say retaliation immediately. He walked through dates, Kemi's initial reviews, the risk submission, the change in collaboration assessment, removal from meetings, access delays, the information handling allegation. Dami interrupted. That allegation was reasonable based on the file movement. Delay from information governance, who had joined remotely, answered through the screen. The file movement was to an approved internal risk system. I did not have that detail when I raised the concern. That is correct, Daly said. Dami looked relieved for half a second. Then Ronke spoke. The concern is not that you asked for review. The concern is that the allegation was referenced in draft probation notes before the facts were established. Dami turned toward her. It was relevant context. It was unresolved silence. The final finding used careful language. There was sufficient evidence that Kemi's protected internal escalation had negatively influenced subsequent performance management and access decisions. The review classified the conduct as retaliatory and inconsistent with company policy. Dami's face changed, not dramatically. Her shoulders dropped half an inch. That was all. One of the executives asked her whether she wanted to respond. Dami looked around the table, then at Kemi. Kemi expected anger. What she saw was exhaustion. I believed she was using the founder's attention as leverage, Dami said. Kemi's chest tightened. Dami continued. I believed the risk note was less about the metric and more about establishing herself as the person brave enough to challenge management. Kemi wanted to speak. Sola raised one hand. Dami went on. And I believed if I allowed that behavior during probation, I would lose control of the function. There it was. Not a confession to fraud, something more human and uglier in a quieter way. Fear of losing control. The executive asked, "Did you consider that she might simply be right about the reporting weakness?" Dami looked down. Not enough. The room stayed silent. Kemi did not feel victorious. She had imagined this moment during sleepless nights. In some versions, Dami was humiliated. In others, Kemi delivered a perfect speech. Reality was smaller. A tired woman had allowed performance pressure and authority to turn disagreement into threat. That did not excuse what she did. It did make the lesson more dangerous. You did not need to be evil to become unfair. You only needed enough power and a reason you found convenient. The executive chair closed the findings section. Employment consequences for individual staff will be handled separately. They are not for discussion in this forum. Good, Kemi thought. No public punishment, no theater. Then Grace turned to Kemi. Your pilot. Kemi looked up. What about it? You ran a limited schedule buffer test under Marcus. Yes, present the result. Kemi blinked. Now, Marcus gave her a small nod. Kemi stood and connected her laptop. For 10 minutes, she did the thing that mattered more than being right about Dami. She showed the work. 2 routes, 4 weeks, earlier departure window, slight reduction in late receiving, 2 avoided cancellations, lower complaints in a tiny sample. Then she put the limitations on the final slide. Small sample, short test period, seasonality not controlled, no basis yet for network-wide rollout. One executive frowned. You are recommending your own pilot and telling us not to trust it? Kemi shook her head. I am recommending we continue testing it. Why not scale now if the direction is positive? Because wanting the result does not make the evidence stronger. Nobody spoke for a second. Then Grace smiled. Not broadly, just enough. Thank you, Kemi sat. That was the moment she knew, whatever happened to her contract, she had not wasted the last 3 months. She had entered Coralink, trying to prove she deserved a job. She was leaving the review with something better. A standard for how she wanted to work. The consequences unfolded over the next 2 weeks. Coralink revised its performance pack. Confirm and route completion remained, because it still measured something useful, but management now saw unserved commitments beside it. Cancellation categories were separated by cause. Operationally driven removals could no longer vanish into an appendix nobody opened. The company also changed the control structure around major KPI definitions. No single functional leader could alter or suppress a cross-business performance measure without documented review from operations, finance, and governance. Probation complaints involving formal risk escalation received independent HR oversight. None of these changes made headlines. They were not supposed to. Good governance was often boring from outside. Inside a system, boring could protect people. Dami did not return to the operations floor after the findings meeting. At first, Kemi heard she had been suspended, then that she had resigned, then that she had been fired in the car park. Office gossip produced facts faster than any investigation Kemi had ever seen. She believed none of it until Ronka called her into HR. "We have concluded Dami's disciplinary process," Ronka said. Kemi sat quietly. "I can't share private details beyond what affects your role. Her employment has ended." Kemi's face remained still. Ronke watched her. "You expected to feel happier?" Kemi looked at her. "Maybe. That is normal. I don't hate her. You do not need to. She tried to push me out. Yes, and I still don't feel like celebrating." Ronke folded her hands. "Accountability is not entertainment." Kemi looked down. That sentence stayed with her. Dami did not lose everything. She was not arrested. Nobody came for her house. Nobody ruined her family. She lost the role whose authority she had misused. The consequence was serious. It was also connected to the harm. That was enough. A week later, Kemi's probation reached its final review. She expected Ronke and Marcus. Grace from Operations Excellence was there too. Yusuf was not. Kemi noticed immediately. Marcus noticed her noticing. "He recused himself," he said. "From this? From anything involving your confirmation?" Kemi sat down slowly. Ronke opened the folder. "We are reviewing your probation based on documented performance, not the outcome of the reporting investigation." "Good. Your work quality is strong. Your cluster complaint rate improved. Your documentation is excellent. Your pilot has been approved for a broader controlled test." Kemi nodded. Ronke continued. "There are areas for development." Kemi almost laughed. "Of course, you can be confrontational." Marcus coughed. Kemi looked at him. "You wrote that?" "I wrote direct." Ronke smiled. "Grace wrote confrontational." Grace did not apologize. "I did." Kemi considered it fair. Grace leaned forward. "Your instinct is to keep pushing once you believe the facts support you. Sometimes that is useful. Sometimes you need to recognize that other people may have information you don't." Kemi thought of Dami's original explanation of the metric. It had been partly valid. She nodded. "I agree." Ronke looked at the final page. "The panel recommends permanent confirmation as Operations Recovery Coordinator." For a second, Kemi did not understand the sentence. She had lived so long inside uncertainty that certainty sounded foreign. Permanent, yes, with effect from the end of probation. Kemi's hands tightened in her lap. She did not cry. Not there. She asked 3 practical questions about salary confirmation, health coverage, and start date. Marcus stared at her. "What?" she said. "Nothing." "What? You are impossible. Why? Most people say thank you first. I have school fees." Grace laughed. Ronke handed Kemi the letter. "Congratulations." This time Kemi let herself smile. "Thank you." She walked out of HR with the letter inside her folder. The same folder. Bent corner and all. She had almost thrown it away after the Apex route interview. She never did. At her desk, Bissy watched her approach. "Well?" Kemi placed the folder down. Bissy stood. "Kemi, permanent," Bissy screamed. Not loudly enough to disturb the whole floor. Loudly enough to disturb half. Toby turned around. Peter came out from behind a partition. Within 2 minutes, people were clapping. Kemi hated office attention. For once, she allowed it. Then Marcus appeared at the edge of the group. "Everybody work!" Bissy rolled her eyes. "You see why nobody likes management?" Marcus pointed at her. "You especially, work." People laughed and dispersed. Kemi sat. Her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Then she recognized it. Musa. "Congratulations, sharp tongue. I hear they finally had sense." Kemi laughed aloud. Bisi looked over. What? Nothing, Kemi replied. Thank you, sir. I hope you are walking properly now. His answer came immediately. I was walking before you were born. Kemi typed. That was not my question. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then I regret giving you my number. Kemi smiled for the rest of the afternoon. Yusuf came to the operations floor 2 days later. Not for her. At least that was what everybody pretended. He had a scheduled leadership meeting on the floor above. On his way back, he stopped by Marcus's desk, spoke to him briefly, then walked toward Kemi. The floor noticed. Kemi stood. Mr. Bello. Kemi, your father says he regrets giving me his number. Yusuf smiled. He regrets many correct decisions. Kemi folded her arms. I heard the review is complete. It is. I also heard your probation ended. It did. He waited. Kemi made him wait another second. Then said, permanent. His smile changed, warmer. Congratulations. Thank you. There was a pause. Kemi looked at him more carefully. I was told you recused yourself. Yes. From the review, too. From draft findings and your employment decision. Why? Yusuf almost confused. You told me you did not want a thank you job. Kemi remembered the temporary office lobby, the cobalt blue jacket, the vacancy notice between them. She looked around the operations floor. People were pretending not to listen. They were terrible at it. Kemi lowered her voice. Now I can thank you. Yusuf raised an eyebrow. For what? For staying out of it. He stared at her. Then he laughed. Not the polite laugh of a businessman. A real one. That may be the strangest thank you I have received. It is the most expensive one I have given. How? I spent 3 months wishing you would interfere and 3 months being grateful you didn't. Yusuf's expression softened. You could have called me. I almost did. When? The day my access was suspended. He became serious. Why didn't you? Because if you fixed it, Dummy would have been right about one thing. What thing? That your attention was my leverage. Yusuf nodded slowly. And now? Kemi looked at her screen. Now my work is. He followed her gaze. The new reporting dashboard was open. For the first time, completion and unserved commitments sat beside each other. Green and amber. Not beautiful. More honest. Yusuf looked at it for a moment. My father will claim this entire thing happened because he fell down. He would. He will tell the story at every family gathering until we die. Then you should hide the walking stick. Yusuf smiled. Congratulations again, Kemi. Thank you. He left. Nobody on the floor moved for 2 seconds. Then Bisi rolled her chair over. What did he say? Kemi did not look up. Work. Bisi narrowed her eyes. You are wicked. Go away. Life did not become easy after that. That was another thing Kemi refused to romanticize. Permanent employment did not erase her debts. It did not repair 3 years of unstable income in one salary cycle. It did not make Zara's father suddenly reliable. It did not remove Lagos traffic, school reminders, rent increases, broken appliances, or mornings when Kemi woke already tired. But stability changed the shape of stress. That mattered. For the first time in years, Kemi could plan 3 months ahead without feeling foolish. She created a small emergency fund. Small meant small, not billionaire money, not a magical bank balance, enough to cover a week, then 2. She paid Zara's next school term before the final reminder. She replaced the old blender that had required 3 taps on the side before working. The first Saturday after payday, she bought herself a pair of good work shoes. She stood in the shop holding them and nearly returned them because the price felt irresponsible. Then Zara said, Mummy, your old shoes make sound. They do not. They talk when you walk. Kemi bought the shoes. At work, her broader route buffer pilot expanded slowly. Some routes improved. Others did not. One region rejected the model completely because its delivery pattern was different. Kemi did not take it personally. That was growth too. Her idea was not her identity. If data said no, the answer was no. The revised reporting structure created uncomfortable meetings. Executives who had grown used to seeing completion above 95% now had to look at unserved commitments beside it. Some weeks, the picture was ugly, but ugly information could be useful. Capacity decisions changed. Client service stopped carrying blame for failures created upstream. Regional teams began separating customer-caused exceptions from operational cancellations more carefully. No system became perfect. It became harder to pretend. That was enough progress for 1 quarter. About 5 months after Kemi's confirmation, Ronke asked her to join a recruitment panel for 2 junior operations roles. Kemi laughed. "Why me? You are now experienced enough to complain about the next generation. I have been permanent for 5 months." "Exactly. Ancient," Kemi agreed. The first interview day arrived on a Thursday. Kemi wore a pale blue blouse with navy trousers. The burnt orange blouse was still in her wardrobe, but it had stopped carrying all the symbolic work. At 9:10, the first candidate arrived early. At 9:50, the second candidate sent a message. "Family emergency. Could she reschedule?" The panel coordinator looked at the time. A no-show is a no-show. Kemi's hand stopped over the printed CV. The sentence was ordinary. She had heard it before in another form. The coordinator continued. "If we start moving interviews, everybody will have a story." Kemi looked at the schedule. The next available panel window was Thursday the following week. She asked, "Do we have any operational reason we cannot move her to next Thursday?" The coordinator frowned. "We don't normally. That is not what I asked." Ronke, sitting at the other end of the table, looked at Kemi and said nothing. The coordinator checked the calendar. "No, we have space. Has she given enough information to show it is a genuine emergency?" "She says her mother was taken to hospital this morning. Then ask her to confirm when she is able. Do not ask for medical details we don't need. If the role is still open and the panel is available, move her." The coordinator looked uncertain. "What if other candidates complain? Then we explain the rule." "What rule?" Kemi looked at Ronke. Ronke smiled slightly. "The one we are about to write," she said. After the interviews, Kemi returned to her desk. She opened the bottom drawer looking for a stapler. Instead, her hand touched an old cardboard folder, burnt at one edge by nothing, bent at one corner by everything. She pulled it out. Apex Route Services, interview invitation, printed CV, copies of certificates she had carried across Lagos on the morning Musa fell. For a few seconds, Kemi sat with the folder on her lap. She could still remember the empty reception chairs. Faith Daniels telling her the panel had finished. The heat outside the building. Zara asking, "Do you wish you left him there?" No. That answer had never changed. But something else had. Kemi no longer believed doing the right thing guaranteed a reward. It did not. Sometimes doing the right thing cost money. Sometimes it cost time. Sometimes it closed a door and did not open another one immediately. Musa's fall had not been a secret test. Yusuf had not been waiting somewhere to reward the first kind person who appeared. Kemi had lost a real interview. That loss stayed real even after another opportunity came. What changed her life was not a billionaire's gratitude by itself. It was what happened after the door opened. A fair assessment. Work she could actually do. A risk she chose to take. Records she kept because facts mattered. People inside the company who eventually allowed a process to examine itself. And one powerful man who understood, perhaps later than he should have, that helping somebody did not always mean deciding the outcome for them. Kemi put the old folder back in the drawer. Her phone buzzed. School pickup reminder. She smiled. Predictable. Beautiful. She shut down her laptop, picked up her bag and headed for the lift. At reception, the junior candidate who had interviewed that morning was leaving too. She recognized Kemi and gave a nervous smile. "Ma, thank you for the interview. You are welcome." The young woman hesitated. "Do you think I did well?" Kemi pressed the lift button. "I think you answered some questions well and some badly." The woman's face fell. Kemi added, "That is what interviews are for." The lift opened. They stepped inside. The young woman laughed softly. "You don't know how to encourage people, I know. I am working on it." Downstairs, Kemi walked into the late afternoon heat. Traffic noise rolled across the road. A motorcycle horn cut through it. For 1 second, the sound took her back to that morning, months earlier. The walking stick rolling beneath a parked car, the phone clock. 8 minutes, 5 minutes, a choice. She crossed the pavement carefully. Her phone rang. Kemi answered. "Good afternoon, sir. I hear you people have changed recruitment rules now." Kemi stopped walking. Who told you that? Information moves. You mean Yusuf told you? I said information moves. Kemi laughed. What do you want, sir? I want to know whether you are free on Sunday. Come and eat. My son thinks I need supervision around hot soup. You probably do. Kemi. Yes? You have become disrespectful. I was disrespectful the day I met you. That is true. She could hear the smile in his voice. I will check Zara's plans, Kemi said. Zara is 9. She has a busier social calendar than me. Bring her. I will ask her. Ask a 9-year-old? Yes. We respect people in my house. Musa became quiet for half a second. Then he said softer, Good. Kemi looked across the road toward the direction of Zara's school. Sunday may work. Fine. And Kemi? Yes, sir? I never properly said this. She waited. Thank you for that morning. Kemi's grip on the phone tightened slightly. You did say it, not properly. You were injured. That is not an excuse for poor manners. Kemi smiled. You are welcome. Musa cleared his throat. And I am still not old. She laughed. Goodbye, sir. Kemi. She ended the call before he could continue. Then she stood on the pavement for a moment, laughing by herself while strangers passed. A few months earlier, she had thought respect was something powerful people gave to people beneath them. Work had taught her a more difficult version. Respect also meant refusing to turn gratitude into ownership. It meant telling a customer the truth instead of protecting a clean number. It meant allowing an employee to question a system without deciding that disagreement was disloyalty. It meant not destroying Dami as a human being simply because Dami deserved consequences as a manager. It meant giving another applicant the chance Kemi herself had not been given. Not because every excuse must be accepted, but because rules were supposed to help people make fair decisions, not save them from thinking. None of those things were dramatic enough for a billboard. They mattered anyway. Kemi checked the time. She was early for school pickup. That still felt luxurious. She crossed the road, and this time nobody was waiting on the ground for her to choose.